It's okay not to be okay. And let's have a talk about that. But before we do that, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Ghazala at the Heart and Soul Cafe. If you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. And if you're here for the first time, you're so, so welcome. It's okay not to be okay. Now, we've heard of this saying before, haven't we? There's been books written about it, and I say it so much in my mental health first aid training. But it is okay not to be okay. What do we say when we're greeting someone? Usually we say, "Oh, Sarah, how are you doing?" And the person will say, "Oh, yeah, I'm fine." And someone will say to me, "Ghazala, how are you doing?" And I'll say, "Yeah, I'm fine. Okay, doing all right." And then you may think, and it's almost become a societal norm where we sort of ask each other these things, and we just sort of say, "Yeah, I'm fine," and it's almost used as a greeting. I think before, years ago, when I trained up as a mental health first aider, before that, I would use, "Oh, how are you doing?" as a greeting instead of saying hello. So I might see someone in the corridor and say, "Oh, hello, hello, Sandra, how are you doing?" And then I'm already halfway down the corridor. I haven't, I haven't even waited for an answer. So I'm using "how are you doing" as a greeting. I'm not actually asking "how are you." So it's how language evolves, isn't it? And I realized after I'd done the mental health first aid course, this is a good maybe 8 years ago, maybe a bit longer, that I then thought, yeah, that's something I do, and I really should be careful about that. If I'm saying hello, just say hello, and if I'm saying, how are you, then I'm saying how are you. I'm asking you, how are you? And then I should wait for an answer. And then the answer would probably be, well, I'm fine. Okay. Tick, box ticked, bye. And then you go. And what I'm trying to say is that, we tend to say, okay, I'm fine, even if we're not. And why? Why are we doing that? Well, because we feel, well, we don't want to burden the other person, and they're only asking us how we are out of politeness. They don't really mean it. They're not really asking, how are you? And want to be standing here, 20 minutes later, sort of me giving the answer how I am. It's just out of politeness. It's what people say to each other, how are you? But, it's okay to ask twice as well, because I do. If I say, oh, how are you? They say, oh, yeah, I'm fine. And then I say, how are you really? Or I might say something like, to the effect of, I might say something like, people that know me and people that know that I deal with mental health, and I talk to people about mental health. If it's somebody like that who knows about me, I might say something to the effect of, oh, how are you dealing with the day today? And then it's, okay, this person, Ghazala's not just asking me how I am. She's asking me, how am I dealing with the day today? Because after all, today is another day. And where am I at? How am I dealing with it? So at that point, that person will then think, oh, how am I dealing with the day today? Actually, that's a good question. Well, actually, Ghazala, it's this. And that then can open up a conversation. It's more of an open question, isn't it? A question that needs more of a yes or no answer. Because when we ask questions that just need a yes or a no, or yeah, I'm fine, then it's not an invitation to let's have a discussion or let's have a conversation about how you're feeling and how how you are actually dealing with the day today. It's just for you to sort of, it's a tick box. I've just asked you how you are, you've answered, and that's it. I've ticked that box and I can go on with my day. It's more about that, isn't it, really? But, it's okay to not be okay. So it's not a sign of weakness if you are struggling, if you are thinking, actually, I'm not really that good today. Today's not a good day. I'm not really dealing with the day that well today. And actually, if you're asking, then I've had better days. And then it'd be, okay, should we talk about it? Should we sit down and have a chat? Let's go for a tea or a coffee or something. Again, if that person's not experiencing anxiety, if they're experiencing anxiety, I'd probably refrain from using, going for a coffee, a caffeinated coffee. It just exacerbates, those symptoms. It can do. Okay, so just, be mindful about that. But if you are then asking someone and someone is saying, okay, yeah, I am struggling, then, you can possibly have that conversation. And if now's not a right time, to schedule a time and say, well, let's get together, day after tomorrow. Are you free at 3:00? Yes, I am. Let's get together and let's, have that chat. And that's something that you could think about doing. But as I say, there's no shame in saying that actually I'm not okay. It shows that you are human. It shows that you are, vulnerable like the next person. We all are. There's always times that any of us could feel that we are struggling with the day, that we're not feeling that good that day. Everything's not always okay. We can have, mental health and anything that we might be experiencing. It might be that we're experiencing grief, and, how we're dealing with grief one day you might be dealing with it completely differently the next day. So it's okay, not to be okay. You don't owe it to everyone to be okay all the time, And if you feel that the person who's asking you isn't somebody that you feel that you can sort of open up to, well, then possibly, you don't have to, but there hopefully will be somebody that you feel comfortable in opening up to. And it's sort of, reaching out to that person at that point and saying, do you have a minute? I just, do you have a spare 15, 20 minutes? I just need to just have a chat, And most people are lovely people. Most people are good people. Most people, when you, reach out and ask for help, they'll be more than happy to help you. And I feel that so many of us just wear a mask to cover up what we're actually feeling inside. And that, by doing that, we are just adding to the stigmatization around poor mental health, around grief and loss, and those topics that might be uncomfortable to talk about, because we've made it uncomfortable. We've made it, we've stigmatized these things, and we've just brushed things under the carpet. Even if we're not okay, we're saying that we are. And, we're not actually addressing things. We're not even admitting it to ourselves half of the time. So let alone admit it to someone else. We're not even admitting it to ourselves that actually today I am not okay. I am struggling today. I wake up in the morning, some mornings, and I'm thinking, oh, today's a difficult day. Today is one of those days where I really am struggling. Today's not a good day. And if someone phones me at that day, or someone comes round and asks me, how are you doing? I say, well, I've had better days, and today's, not a brilliant day. And I'll just be honest. And if it's somebody that, is a good listener, I will probably share, a little bit about how I'm feeling and what's going on and what's happening with my day. And by sharing and feeling, it means that you've sort of offloaded a little bit, and you might start feeling a bit better. It might also mean that you can sort of put things into perspective, things that you are adding on to your strains of the day, perhaps things that you need to do. You might sort of think, well, you might sort of put things into perspective, or compartmentalize things, and think, well, why am I worrying about that? I don't need to sort of add on to what I'm already feeling by worrying about what needs to be done by the end of next week. I could, sort of think about that next week. I don't need to think about it this week. So there's all sorts of things. And when you say things that are in your head, when you actually say things and your ears actually hear them, that in itself can be quite a way of processing what's going on in your head in itself. And sometimes when that person's a good listener, when they're listened well, and when they possibly paraphrase something back to you and say, okay, so you're feeling this, and you sort of, you can get that feeling that that person cares enough to be listening and has got that story right that you've just shared with them. That way your feelings can be sort of be validated, that you feel that, somebody is validating those feelings. They're not just you feeling them, sharing them, and they've just sort of tossed them out as unimportant. Somebody has listened and listened effectively, and they're not then judging you. They're not then thinking, oh, well, Ghazala's not much fun today, so I'll just leave. You know, someone who will actually then sit with you in that pain, acknowledge that pain, and then usually what happens is you actually start feeling a bit better because you've shared that and somebody else has validated what you're feeling and someone else has not judged you for it and not made you feel guilty about it, and they've just accepted that it is. It often makes you feel better in itself. So it's okay not to be okay, to admit it to yourself and to others, and that's okay in itself. Okay. Thank you for watching this video. I do really appreciate it. Thank you for those of you who have subscribed. I really do appreciate that. If you feel that the content of this video would be helpful to somebody else, then please do share it. Please do like, subscribe, and comment. Let's get a conversation going about, you know, how you feel, you know, when you're not feeling too good and someone asks you how you are, what you say, you know, oh, I'm fine. Is that what you say? Or would you think about maybe saying something else now? I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Until then, look after your hearts and souls.